Alright guys, welcome to the last video, chapter 9. This is where we did all the quadratics and parabolas. And I know this chapter's fresh, but I figured I'd do a video just in case. So first of all the ways how to solve quadratics. Remember, you're going to get two answers each, unless it's all or no solution, or unless it's no solution, or one solution. First one is GCF. So GCF only works when it equals 0. And then what can you guys divide out of both of these? And it's 5x. And if you actually divide both of them by 5x, you're left with 1x minus 3. Okay, so that's dividing out the GCF. And now we set them both equal to 0 and solve. So if you divide by 5, you get x equals 0. And then if you add 3, you get x equals 3. Okay, so our two answers are 0 and 3. Okay, moving on, quadratic formula. This is when you also must equal 0. So I'm going to subtract the 8 over first. And now we have 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. And now it equals 0. And this is where you guys do that story about the boy. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, let's do it. So negative b. A negative is now positive. Plus square root. B squared. If it's negative, you need parentheses before you square it. Minus 4 awesome chicks. 4 times 3 times negative 8 all over 2 times a. Okay, first answer is 2. Second answer, if you turn the plus into a subtract, is negative 4/3. And you can leave it as a decimal or a fraction. And then the last type of solving for quadratics is by undoing. So on these, you draw the wall and you start undoing operations until x is alone. So we're going to start by adding the 5. And now we're at 3 times x plus 2 squared equals 12. And then we're going to divide by 3. And now we're at x minus 2 squared equals 4. And then we're going to square root both sides. And get x minus 2 equals, don't forget plus or minus. Square root of 4 is 2. And last step, add 2, add 2. Okay, so what does x equal? Well, positive 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So the answers are 4 and 0. Okay, so that's all the solving. Now, we did one of each, vertex form and standard form. Okay, so here's an example in vertex form. So the vertex is opposite h comma k. So in this example, it's positive 1, positive 8. Line of symmetry is x equals, it's always the first number of the vertex. And the y-intercept, you have to plug in 0 for x. So negative 2 times 0 minus 1 squared plus 8. You get 6. And then to find the actual x-intercepts or zeros, this is where you guys have to solve it by setting it all equal to 0. So this is an undoing one. You would minus 8, divide by negative 2. Okay, so we would minus the 8 over. Then if we divide by negative 2, we get x minus 1 squared equals 4. And then square root both sides. We get x minus 1 equals plus or minus 2. And then lastly, add that 1 over. Okay, so positive 2 plus 1 is 3. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. And then if we can graph all this, we're good. So vertex at 1, 8. Line of symmetry down through 1. Y-intercept at 6. And its free point. And then zeros at 3 and negative 1. And there is your graph. Now that we have a graph, these are going to be really easy to find actually. What is the maximum height of the ball? The highest it ever goes is 8. And I don't know what the unit is, so we'll say feet. B, when does the ball reach its maximum height? That is at 1 second. From what height was the ball initially thrown? That's the y-intercept here, and that was at 6 feet. When does the ball hit the ground? That's right here at 3 seconds. Now, it's also at negative 1, but that doesn't make sense for the problem, so we're done. Another thing about vertex form that you guys haven't seen in a while is this, is write the equation in vertex form given a point xy and a vertex hk. Remember, you got to plug them all in and you're trying to find A. Okay, so for y, we're going to plug in 6. In for x is negative 2 minus h, but minus a minus becomes a plus 3 squared, and then plus k is 4. Okay, and now you guys have to solve for a. So we're going to minus the 4 over to get 2, and then just copy it down. And then we're going to evaluate all of this business here. So negative 2 plus 3 is 1, and 1 squared is just 1. And then at this point, you could divide both sides by 1, right, to get a. So a is just going to be 2. Okay, now you got to plug in the a, h, and k. So final answer, y equals a, which is 2, times x minus h would be plus 3 squared, plus k is 4. So in the end, you plug in a, h, and k. Okay, on to standard form. Some of you might not need this video because we just did this chapter. Okay, standard form. Opens up or down. If it's positive, it opens up. What's the formula for the vertex? That's negative b over 2 times a. So let's do that. Nope. All right, negative b over 2 times a. A negative negative is a positive 6 over 2 times 1. So the vertex is 3 comma something. And now you got to take that 3 and plug it back in. So 3 squared minus 6 times 3 minus 7 is negative 16. And that's not great for our graph, but it'll have to do. Line of symmetry is always the first number of the vertex, so x equals 3. And y-intercept, you plug in 0, or if you know the trick by now, it is always c, if it's in standard form. To find the zeros, you set the equation equal to 0, and you solve by MA table or quadratic formula. So x equals negative b, 6, plus or minus square root b squared, so negative 6 squared, minus 4ac, so a is 1, c is negative 7, all over 2a. All right, type that in, get your two answers. So we make a big fraction. All right, 6 plus square root, parentheses when it's negative, negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 7 all over 2 times 1. So one of them 7. And the other one, if we turn the plus into a minus, we get negative 1. Okay, so those are the zeros. Okay, sketch graph. Vertex at 3, negative 16. Line of symmetry down 3. Y-intercept at negative 7 with its free point. And x-intercepts or zeros at 7 and also at negative 1. So this one went a little off the graph, but that's okay. And there you go. So, same idea. If we have a graph, the word problems are really easy. Okay, scuba diver going underwater and then resurfacing. At what depth does he begin his descent? And that's going to be here at 7 meters below water. Okay, that's when he starts time 0. He starts there and then he goes down. B, when does he reach the maximum depth? That would be down here, and that's at 3 seconds. What is the maximum depth? That's 16 meters below water. And D, when does he resurface? When is he back at 0? That is the 7 seconds. All right, nice job, guys. That was Chapter 9 review.